everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Doing With, Not Doing For, What It Takes to Facilitate Person-Centered Planning. My name is Alex Bernardi, one of the co-directors of the National Center on Advancing Person-Centered Practices and Systems. Next slide. Thank you and welcome. We will be spending time today. You'll see both myself, Alex Bernardi, and Bevan Croft, our co-director. We are delighted to be with you all here today as we see people starting to join in this webinar. I wanted to thank you for joining us and to note that this webinar is sponsored by the National Center on Advancing Person-Centered Practices and Systems, and that we are funded through the Administration on Community Living and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. These webinars are all free, available to the public, and can be viewed after the fact on the NCAPPS website. Next slide, please. The goal of NCAPPS is to promote systems change that makes person-centered principles not just an aspiration, but a reality in the lives of people across the lifespan. This particular topic, focusing on facilitation of person-centered planning, and particularly the competencies of staff who facilitate person-centered planning, is one of the key areas where we think is really important to focus. People who facilitate person-centered planning have a key role to play, of course, in ensuring a person-centered system. And for the planning process to be truly person-centered, it's critical that staff who facilitate person-centered planning possess the skills to keep the focus on the person, cultivate connections, maximize choice and control, communicate clearly, and make sure the plan is implemented according to the person's wishes. These competencies are part of the recently published NCAPPS resource, 5 Competencies Domains for Staff who Facilitate Person-Centered Planning, and the panel today will be discussing much more about that. Next slide, please. A few logistics about this webinar. Participants will be muted. Toward the end of the webinar, I should say also, you can use the chat feature in Zoom to post questions, and please do. We will have Q&A time at the end. Towards the end of the webinar, we will have some opportunity for discussion. This webinar is also live captioned in English and Spanish, and the links are available on your screen there, and we will put them into chat. We do include polls during this webinar, so please be ready to respond to our poll questions so we can make this a little bit more engaging. Next slide. This webinar recording, along with the PDF version, will be posted on the NCAPPS website, NCAPPS.acl.gov. We will post that link into chat as well. And after webinar, you can also send follow-up questions to the website on your screen, ncapps@hsri.org. Please note that that email is not being monitored currently during this webinar. So if you have questions, please go ahead and enter them into chat right here. Next slide, please. And this brings us to our first polling question. Poll question should have just come up on your screen, and we would like to find out who's here. So we ask people to respond, in what role do you self-identify? This helps our panelists and those of you who are here get a sense of who all is in this virtual room together. I'm noting that we have a large number of participants today, which is very exciting for all of us, and we're excited to have all of you with us. In a few more seconds, our colleague Connor will be closing the poll. We'll give you another few seconds to respond, and we will get this going for you. Thank you. So we have a broad representation here. More than half of people who are participating are social workers, counselors, or care managers. And in truth, this is wonderful because these are people, those of you who are in that role in many cases are facilitating person-centered planning. We have people representing from service provider organizations. We do have people with disabilities who use long-term supports and services joining us, self-advocates as well. Thank you all for joining us. And we can go to the next slide, please. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Bevan Croft.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I believe that we have a record number of participants on this webinar, which is an auspicious beginning to the new year. So if you haven't been to an NCAPPS webinar before, we're pleased that you are here. We ask that you please bear with us on the captioning and ASL interpretation. We are working on getting that set up. So please know that we're on it. There will also be Spanish captioning coming as well. Again, apologies for that. I would like to introduce our first speaker for today, Dr. Janice Tandora. Janice is an associate professor at the Yale Program for Recovery and Community Health, and she works on implementation and evaluation of supports that promote recovery and self-determination for people with mental health challenges. Dr. Tandora is a family member of a person with a brain injury, and she has a long history of working to promote the full inclusion of people with disabilities in all aspects of community life. Janice was the primary author on the 5 competency domains for staff who facilitate person-centered planning, which is a document that accompanies this webinar. We will link to it in chat. And now I'd like to turn things over to Janice to tell us more about the resource and how it was developed.
Great, thanks, Bevan. Good afternoon, everyone. I am going to do my best to share a bit with you about this document. Connor, you can go to the next slide, the 5 competency domains for staff who facilitate person-centered planning. I'm going to try to do that in about 15 minutes, even though it took us over a year to actually come up with it. So I'll hit the high points. You can go ahead to the next slide. I want to start by kind of acknowledging the history and the context of the competency domains, because this was really an extension of the work of the National Quality Foundation. Bevan and I were both involved in that, maybe some of you on the line. That was a multi-stakeholder panel that worked together pretty intensively over about an 18-month period in an effort to really reach consensus on what quality looked like, not only in person-centered planning, but in person-centered systems. If you haven't seen it, the report is a wealth of information. It's really comprehensive, especially in its focus also on the systems characteristics needed to support person-centered planning. But we recognized that we needed a more concise, user-friendly tool coming out of that NQF process if it was going to have a really meaningful impact on the field. So that really gave birth to a number of NCAPPS efforts, including the development of these competency domains. So next slide. Just a little bit about the applicability of the competency domains. So NCAPPS, if you're not aware, is a cross-disability effort. And based on that and working across systems, we try to be mindful of the fact that there can be differences in how person-centered planning plays out based not only on strengths and challenges of unique structures of service systems, but also based on the preferences of persons served within those support systems. So that really challenged us to try to focus on really kind of the must-dos. And no matter what service system you're supported by, no matter what type of disability or diagnosis you experience, what are those core competencies that all facilitators should really possess? Next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about the process. So how we came up with the document attached to this webinar, I would really describe it as pretty systematic, but not scientific. So what I did, I started by kind of casting the net broad. I collected about, I think it ended up being 16 sort of primary resources that spoke to competency and PCP facilitation. And that included looking at the 2014 rule closely, state and federal practice guidelines, looking at learning objectives associated with some of the widely used national training curricula, whether that was Life Course or No Wrong Door, or some of the foundational models or the person-centered recovery planning work happening in behavioral health. And looking across those 16 sources, we extracted out a master set, I think, of over 400 potential core competencies. And a master spreadsheet of 400 competencies is not going to be a practical tool for the field. So we knew we had to organize them in a way. So I made an effort to really do a thematic analysis, kind of group them by theme, like how did these 400 competencies kind of hang together? And I presented that to a team of people at NCAPPS, variety of staff and leaders and people with lived experience. We then had a process where what we did was we all went through and we rated those 400 competencies in terms of what domain of competency did they seem to fit best with. And we weren't perfect right out of the gate, but I do have to say we had about 90+% agreement across where and how those domains fit together. So again, we tried to be pretty comprehensive about this. What was nice about the spreadsheet was that it allowed us to really identify across all those 16 sources, what were the most frequently identified competencies, which really can then inform what are the must-dos, no matter where you're supported, what type of program that you're involved in. So let me tell you a little bit about what that process resulted in. If you can go to the next slide, Connor, for me. It ended up leading us to several sort of core domains in person-centered planning facilitation. And again, these were sort of valued, it appeared across all of those sources and across all different types of disability support systems. So if you can go to the next slide, I'll give you a big picture view of what those core competencies looked like. So what I want to point out here, I'm going to give you a quick description of each of these and a representative competency from them in a minute here. But what I want to say here is that there's nothing magic about 5 competencies. I think at one point we had 4 competency domains. At one point we had 6. But after really kind of working on this together as a team and vetting it in listening sessions with people with lived experience, vetting it with the PAL group, the person-centered advisory, the leadership group of NCAPPS, we really do feel like across the 5 domains, we've captured the most important kind of knowledge, skills, and abilities that facilitators should possess. So I'll give you a quick representative example of each of those, if you can go to the next slide for me. All right, so the primary first domain here, domain A, is about strengths-based, culturally informed, whole person focused. And that's a mouthful, but essentially what that really encompasses, it's the essence of why we do person-centered planning, right? That idea of doing person-centered planning to help people live a good life in the community as defined by each individual based, on their own unique preferences, including those that are informed by their cultural worldview and their identity. So the types of competencies that you might see within that domain look at things like, is the facilitator able to complete a comprehensive strengths-based profile, for example? A strengths-based profile that can really inform the plan and help the person discover or maybe rediscover themselves, as a whole person beyond a label, a disability, or a diagnosis. And facilitators can demonstrate that competency in a variety of ways using a variety of different tools. It could be life trajectory worksheets, important to, important for sorts, relationship and circle mapping to identify strengths and resources, not just within the person, but also within their natural network. And certainly, what goes along with that is having higher expectations for meaningful life outcomes that go beyond the management of behavior or a disability or a symptom, talking about real lives in the community, whether that has to do with hobbies or jobs or participation in faith communities, you name it. So that's domain A. Let's take a quick look at domain B, if you can go on, next slide. So domain B, cultivating connections inside the system and out, is about the facilitator's ability to really connect people to paid and unpaid supports. And so representative competencies within this domain in particular, can the facilitator help the person navigate not only LTSS services but also are they aware of and can they help facilitate connections to the wide array of community resources that are out there, whether that's recreation and leisure, housing resources, employment or volunteer opportunities, financial entitlements, faith-based, connections in the community. And then the second example competency that's up there talks about the types of resources we might connect people to, and being mindful of the fact, really always trying, when it is the person's preference, are we connecting people to natural community activities and relationships and helping them live a real life in the community and be connected, and not only connected inside of treatment or service systems. So that might play out in a way that instead of developing, or in addition to developing, some type of spirituality group or a class for individuals to participate in, can we also co-create a person-centered plan with them that helps them get back to their preferred faith community in the natural community, whatever that might be. All right, let's take a look at domain C here. All right, so this one is about rights, choice, and control. And that really involves sort of basic fundamental human rights, the fundamental right to safety and to be free of abuse and neglect, both within the service system and outside of it. And similarly, what are someone's rights as it relates to building good life in the community and community inclusion and being free from, discrimination, again, inside the system and out. So that might involve competencies that you see in the red there around providing education to people about, what their rights are in services. What are their rights as it relates to recognizing and understanding when they might be experiencing discrimination in the community? And what are the resources that they might connect to if in fact they think they're having that experience? The bottom competency there really looks at the facilitator's ability to teach a person and support them in advocating for themselves in whatever way they choose. And if desired and if needed, the facilitator's ability to advocate for them based on the relationship, based on what they know is important to the individual. All right, domain D. Next slide, please, Connor. All right, so this one is really primarily about the process, the planning process, the meeting, whether that's a one-on-one meeting or a group of individuals that get together. Competencies you'd want to be looking at there would include the facilitator's ability to, always consistently start with the preferences of the person served, getting their meaningful input about who they want to involve, who they might not want to involve, location of that meeting, where would they feel most comfortable, what are the priority areas for discussion, do they want to lead the meeting, do they want your help in leading the meeting, and in advance making sure that we're getting that kind of input. The bottom competency there really goes to sort of best practices in meeting facilitation, and are the meetings facilitated in a way that they're consistently communicating respect and making space for all those voices in the room, but obviously with a particular emphasis on the voice of the person receiving services and supports. All right, one more competency. Go ahead, Connor. So the last competency domain is on person-centered documentation, implementation, and monitoring. And what this basically speaks to is that, sometimes the best laid plans don't work out as we'd hoped. So the idea of making sure that we get that plan, that vision down on paper or in an electronic health record so that it can be a tool of accountability that we can follow up on over time and make sure that the plan is being implemented in accordance with what is most important to the person, is also a critical part of this process. So that would include looking at things like, is the person's preferred name and are their identity preferences used throughout the documentation? Oh, we went to the slideshow view there. It includes things like making sure that the competency of identifying strengths are actually used and incorporated into the plan. And then after the person-centered plan is co-created in that process, is the facilitator regularly soliciting ongoing feedback from the person as to what's working and maybe what's not working so that they can revise the plan together as needed. And then lastly, I want to share just briefly here a little bit about how these competencies might be used in practice. So if you go to the last slide, Connor. And before I do this, I wanted to say in my introduction, I want to give a shout out to my home state of Connecticut, and in particular to their NCAPPS team and Patty Richardson. I don't know if she's on our webinar today, but Connecticut was a state that was also heavily involved in the development of these core competencies, because Connecticut is a state that is very rich in a variety of different training models and curricula and different ways of doing person-centered planning. So if you're a state like Connecticut and you have a lot of different things happening out in the field, how do you make sure that, again, no matter where someone is being supported, do we have consistent measures of quality? Do we have a consistent expectation around what it should look like in practice? And Connecticut was very helpful to us in informing this document by gathering and sharing a wide range of resources and curricula that were in use in the state. So let's just say, for example, on the far left there, you take one of the competencies out of domain A around actively identifying and incorporating the strength into the planning process and the documentation. First, you decide that maybe that's the competency you want to be focusing on. Then in the green there, in the second column, one of the things you want to be thinking about is, if there's a competency that you want to hold a facilitator accountable to, are you giving facilitators the appropriate tools and resources and training to develop that competency? So you want to look across the training curricula and supports that you're offering and see where and how that competency might be being taught to. Whether that's in tools, whether that's in training methodologies. It could be, again, use of tools like important to, important for sorts. We could be mapping circles of supports or doing the integrated support star to identify natural strengths an individual has in their relationships. And then once you've confirmed that the competency is actually being taught to and people are being adequately prepared, you want to make sure that you are aligning your quality monitoring tools around them. So it's one thing to provide training around a competency. It's another thing to check whether or not it's actually happening and being translated into day-to-day practice. So in that purple column, you would want to be thinking about doing things like creating observational review sheets, observational audit tools, that if you're sitting in on a person-centered planning meeting, how do you actually know it's person-centered? What are the indicators that you're looking for of that competency in action? And similarly, you want to be actually looking at the person-centered plan that comes out of that dialogue and that conversation. And do we have plan review tools that are actively looking for the displayed competency of incorporating and capitalizing on the strength in the documentation? And the bottom bullet there, just a reminder that when we're thinking about assessing the competencies in action, the most important source of information we have is always going back to the person served and directly soliciting their input around the extent to which they feel like they're being supported in this way. Lastly, the blue column, just thinking about sort of practical applications for this. Every system is going to have strengths and challenges as it relates to the competencies, but we can be thinking about, are there places we need to beef up our training protocols to enhance a particular competency domain? Are our preparatory training programs that prepare staff to work in our programs, is the undergraduate and curriculum teaching to that? When we have human resources decisions around the type of skills that we build into job descriptions and hiring decisions, are we looking for these competencies in action? And then lastly, really, are we using these competencies to identify not only areas of needs, but where are the exemplary programs? Really, where are the superstars that are doing this well, and what can we learn from them to help others kind of come along? So that's a quick view of what the kind of primary competency domains look like. If you can do the last slide, I would just say there are some next steps here where we, a lot of these tools are out there in the field now. Some states are taking them and doing some modifications to address some state-specific culture issues or context. There's a plain language version highly accessible to promote accessibility that I think is being released this week on the NCAPPS website. We're working really hard to get the word out through webinars like this and distribution on the website. And also hoping that we take this to the next level and even think about the idea of developing quality measures and really mapping them onto the competencies. So we're hoping that's a task that a group may take up in the NCAPPS group TA. So that's a high level overview. I'm going to turn it over to Bevan to keep us going with our panel.
Thank you so much, Janice. And because there are so many wonderful participants in this webinar, it can be a little hard to keep up with chat. So we'll post the link a few more times, but we have linked to the full document in chat. I know some folks had asked about that, and folks have also asked about will the slides be available? Will this recording be available? The answer to both of those questions is yes, just as soon as we're able to get them all on the website. Okay, so we're moving into the next portion of the webinar, and we'd like to hear from all of you. So we have a polling question. Now that we've given you a little taste of what this resource is, outlining 5 competency domains, how might you use this resource in your life, work, and/or organization? And there's a poll in front of you. Please select any of these that apply. And if you have something else in mind, you can enter that into chat. We're really interested in hearing from folks about how you think you might be able to use this resource. And while you're looking through the options, I'll read them out to you. So how might you use this resource? It might help me speak up about what I expect from person-centered planning. It might help with selecting or hiring staff who have these skills. It might help with training staff to learn these skills. It might help with monitoring staff performance, might help with measuring service user experience, or something else. So again, really interested in what you're hearing, and we'll give folks about 10 more seconds, 10, 15 more seconds to respond to this. Please take whatever time you need. Okay. All right, so it looks like folks have lots of ideas. And the most common is training staff to learn these skills, which is fantastic. And then also people are saying that to help me speak up about what I expect. And we're going to talk more about that a little later. And then I'm seeing here in chat that folks might use this in a proposal process. Might share with community of practice, might use it to develop person-centered evidence-based interventions, to plan for the future. I like that one. To develop practical guides and tie this to other practical activities such as transitioning between services, employment, etc. This is awesome. This makes us feel really good. So thank you for sharing that. So now I'd like to turn to our illustrious panel. Connor, you can go ahead and take the slides down. I'm going to introduce each of our speakers in turn and give them about 10 minutes to introduce themselves to you. The first panelist is Dr. Carol Britton-Laws. Carol is the training director for the Institute on Human Development and Disability, where she teaches, coordinates the University of Georgia's Disability Studies Certificate Program. And she's the founding director of the University of Georgia's inclusive post-secondary education program, which is called Destination Dogs. She's also certified by the learning community for person-centered practices in essential lifestyle planning and person-centered thinking, and is a fellow of the American Association for Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. So Carol, welcome, and please share with us your personal and professional experience with person-centered planning.
Great, wonderful. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for having me, and thank you to the National Center on Advancing Person-Centered Practices for all of your hard work in this area. I'm really happy to be part of this panel. So in thinking about my experience with person-centered practices, I thought it would be kind of fun to challenge myself to think about these 5 competency domains and roles that I've had within the home and community-based service system for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, which is the service sector that I have the most experience with, and to think about which of the competencies I felt I either needed or we needed in the field, given the role I was in, and then to kind of highlight one of them as perhaps one that might be a domain that is something that we can focus on collectively as we think about systems change and about this work. And I do have one slide, Connor, if you don't mind putting that up, it might be helpful to our participants, because as someone who likes visual tools, I created a table. So I'll kind of walk through this, but it might be helpful to see it as well. So when I started my career way back in the 90s, I started as a direct support professional. So I was really frontline worker, supporting people hands-on with activities of daily living, connecting them to community services and in paid and unpaid ways. Also really reading the plans that were put in place for people and trying to find ways to make sure that what the person's goals were represented in the work that I was doing with them every day. And in that role, I think there were a number of competencies that were really important. And I think you'll see that for any role that you're in, all of these domains are relevant. But certainly those that were most relevant included the things that we were required to do, like documentation and implementing plans. Some of that documentation was to show how the work we were doing was in alignment with the person's goals for billing purposes or for mandated reasons. But also we were really interested in supporting people to cultivate connections within our organization and in the communities that the people we supported lived in. And I think the most important competency area for me as a direct support worker who was in relationship with a person with a disability is that we recognize the rights, choice, and control of the people that we were supporting. We as direct support frontline workers have the ability to either facilitate relationships and recognize the autonomy and self-determination of the people we work with. And we also have the ability to become a barrier to that if we don't have those skills. So I really feel that that's very important when you're working with frontline workers. Because I kept showing up to my job, I eventually was promoted into a frontline supervisor position where I was doing more case management and quality assurance. And in this role, again, documentation, implementation, and particularly monitoring of person-centered skills as they were reflected by direct support workers was really important. As was partnership, teamwork, communication, and facilitating person-centered planning throughout the team to make sure that as a case manager, someone who had a team that I was working with, that I was communicating the values and the attitudes of person-centeredness to the people that I was working with. But I think one of the things that we need to do as case managers, as social workers, and as people who might be overseeing a team of people is to make sure, as Janice pointed out, that we really understand and communicate what the essence of person-centered planning is, that it's strengths-based and that it's culturally informed by the people who the plans are written with, and that it's focused on the whole person, not just the billable services and not just the things that we might, from a systems perspective, believe are important to document. Finally, as Bevan mentioned, I moved into a role where I was nationally certified as a trainer with the National Center on the Learning Community on Person-Centered Practices, where I was doing training throughout the state of New Jersey on person-centered planning and essential lifestyle planning methods. So I was working with provider organizations, service providers, and state provider associations to help people learn and build the skill that they needed to be good person-centered planning facilitators. And so in this role, I think I really needed to have that whole person strengths-based perspective in order to really communicate the essence of person-centered planning. I also think, focusing on the person's rights and self-determination, that we really communicated to trainers within organizations that person-centered planning is about helping people to make informed choices and to understand what their rights are within the planning process and to have that be documented and reflected in the work that we were doing. And mostly at this point, I think this is where focusing on partnership and teamwork and communication becomes really important. When you're working with trainers and you're communicating and teaching observable skills, having them understand their role within their organization as facilitators of plans and as leaders of teams, and communicating what they expect from the direct support frontline workers to help people meet their goals is really important. As Bevan also mentioned, currently I am at the University of Georgia, and I am the founding director of an inclusive post-secondary program for young adults with intellectual disability who are here at UGA's campus. They're taking classes alongside their matriculated peers, and we utilize a person-centered planning process in order to guide the activities that they're engaged with and determine which courses our students will take to help them meet their career goals over time. And this one was a little tough for me to think about because there were so many of the competencies that are certainly relevant here, including, of course, documenting what a student expresses that he or she wants in terms of academic engagement, in terms of social engagement on campus, and what their career goals and dreams are. But also here, it becomes really important for us, again, to really look at recognizing the rights, choice, and control of the students that we're working with. We work with a number of peer mentors who are volunteer UGA undergraduate students who help really guide our students through the University of Georgia and connect them into all of the opportunities that are available for students. And so they really need to understand that as part of this process, it's our students who are making the choices, and they are being self-determined in thinking about how they want to spend their time on campus and the classes that they'll take and what they're going to engage in. But also it becomes really important that we're cultivating connections within the UGA system and outside, because we want our students to have a good adult life. And so having a good, strong person-centered approach and person-centered plan, which allows us to think about what are the paid and unpaid resources we need to connect our students to, can become really important for their future success as adults. And then finally, one of the projects that I'm very thrilled to be part of is a state systems level planning project called Living Well Georgia, and we are utilizing person-centered planning in a systems change capacity, where we are looking at some of the tools that we put in place, including the documentation that is done by direct support workers within home and community-based service systems, and thinking about how are we using those tools and the documentation that we have in our system to improve our monitoring and build capacity to have better quality systems in place for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And so in this way, the last competency area of documentation, implementation, and monitoring becomes really important for us, because we recognize that there is a lot of information being collected within our systems, and that it should be focused on what is both important to a person and what is important for a person. And that we can take that information and really look at how to aggregate it in our systems to address deficiencies if there are areas in these competency domains that we might not see as frequently as we would hope to. So in a nutshell, this is kind of a higher level, I think, look at how I think we can use these competency domains and how I think they are flexible and also applicable across multiple levels within our systems. But in your work, you might find that there are some that might be a little bit more applicable or more prevalent than others. And when you're thinking about how to apply these, it might be helpful to think about how you can start with just one of them in one domain area. So thank you, Bevan.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, so next we are going to hear from Darian. I'd like to introduce you to Darian Todd. He's from Ellenwood, Georgia, went to Kennesaw State University and graduated from the Academy for Inclusive Learning and Social Growth with a major in public speaking. He's currently working at the Center for Leadership and Disability at Georgia State University as a self-advocate intern and an inclusive post-secondary education advocate intern. He's a board trainer at the Center for Leadership and Disability and is in the Georgia LEN program at Georgia State University. He has a disability called dyslexia, and one of his strengths is working with others, and he's a really hard worker. So Darian, welcome. Please tell us a bit about your personal and professional experience with person-centered planning.
So, hello everyone. Oh my God. Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Darian Todd, as Devin introduced me. So I will tell you a little bit about my personal experience with person-centered planning. So I did mine at Georgia State, no, not Georgia State, Kennesaw State University. And it was more like a map. So we would map out our, they would map out my goals that I would put out for myself and help me get a grasp of what things can happen and how can I approach those goals within the time period that I want them to happen. So all of the thing is the one thing about person-centered planning is helping that student gain that independence that they want to be in their near future and help them gain employment or anything that they want to do for a job. So I think honestly for me, the best thing that a person could have going into a person-centered planning is being understanding, making sure that the person that you work with is understanding and not everybody works the same. So having an open mind going in with working with that student and helping them get a strategy, helping them get a understanding of what goals can happen in the time that they want, what are logical goals, are goals that you need to do to make sure that goal is doable for in the near future. And I just want to say that person-centered planning helps a lot of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities live their best lives and help them gain an understanding of who they are and where they can be in this world and how they can thrive and how they can give back to their communities and be their best selves. So that's all I have. I hope that wasn't too short or too long, but I hope that was enough.
Thank you, Darian.
You're welcome.
And finally, I would like to introduce Amy Pierce to you all. Amy has been working in the peer movement in the state of Texas for over 2 decades. She is currently the Peer Services Implementation Field Liaison with an organization called Via Hope. Her passion lies in supporting organizations in the development and implementation of peer programs. She's a peer and a family member with both mental health and addictions experience and is a certified peer specialist facilitator, an advanced level WRAP, which stands for Wellness Recovery and Action Plan facilitator, an assist trainer, and a WHAM facilitator. WHAM stands for Whole Health Action Management. And Amy, I'll need you to help me spell out the acronym for assist. But welcome, Amy. Please tell us about your personal and professional experience with person-centered planning. And Amy, you'll need to take yourself off mute.
That is one thing I always do. I always leave myself on mute. But thank you, Bevan, and thank you all for giving me this opportunity to be here today. The first thing I want to just kind of say is kind of what's so for me. I'm kind of navigating and have been navigating COVID for the past 3 weeks. So my voice is a little bit there, my energy is a little bit low, and I may start coughing. So just kind of want to give you all a heads up. I say that for a couple of reasons. One, it helps me get out of my own head to be here with you. But the second part is that's actually something that I learned learned from a service provider who was supporting me in my journey to have the best life possible. You see, for many years, I am a person with lived experience of mental health challenges. And for many years, I would go in and out of team meetings and sit very, very quiet because I couldn't always trust the words that were going to come out. I couldn't always trust, was I going to stutter? Were they going to think all these things about me? And a service provider actually worked with me and sat with me and shared with me about just kind of saying what some of those things were for me at the very beginning, to take it out of the space. And what happened for me in that was it gave me this permission to be however I needed to be. And for me, in a lot of ways, that's what person-centered planning does for individuals. The place, especially where we look at individuals being able to advocate for what they need, to find their voice, and to use their voice. Just a little bit of history on my lived experience. It does come from the mental health field. I'm an individual who actually had been hospitalized between 40 and 50 times at my last hospitalization. I was told all the things I would never do in my life and came to learn to be a really good, what I say, mental patient. Because what I learned in those early years is I didn't feel like I had a voice, I didn't feel like I had a choice, and I couldn't trust myself. But what happened through the years, I actually ended up in my last hospitalization. That hospitalization lasted almost a year. And I want to thread some things through that time and how it helped me find the life that I had today. You see, the first thing that happened when I ended up in that last hospitalization, which was the state hospital, was that someone said I could get better. And that first team meeting that we actually had was that they sat down and they asked me, like, what did I want to see? What did I want to do? And I couldn't answer at that time because I was scared. You know, I'd been told before that I was going to live in and out of institutions for the rest of my life. So the the thought about actually having a belief or a hope something could be different was so out of my purview. But they said that I could, and it was going to be the hardest thing that I ever did. And that was the first time I actually felt or remember feeling that I was in partnership with the individuals that were on my team. They worked with me to find my voice, to find strategies such as just like what I shared at the very beginning. They supported me in learning how to write things down so when I came into the team meeting, I could look at this list and say what it was I needed. Because up to that point, my needs weren't getting met. And in my needs not getting met, I would become more and more frustrated and actually gave up because there wasn't a lot of hope. And I see this in the work that I do today over and over and over. The other thing that happened that was really important when I think about a person-centered planning structure for me was that they didn't look at medication management. They didn't look at, me having this space of going back to places that had been very harmful to me. They started asking questions around what did I want to do? Who did I want to be? What did I want my life to look at? And at first I couldn't tell them. And the first time I actually fully got asked that question, it was in April of 1996. And I can tell you the exact time and the date and the space because I actually had a total meltdown. When I say a meltdown, I started crying because I didn't know because I hadn't seen myself living outside in the world, living in a space that had possibilities. And so my care psychologist at the time worked with me to create this list of what did I want to accomplish. And at that time, we called it a dreams list, right? People call it a bucket list. I wanted to live on my own. I wanted to get off of disability. I wanted to have a car, a convertible to be exact. But most of the things on that list that were supposed to be like way out there were just things that every human being wants in this world. I wanted to go back to college. I knew I didn't want to live in a place like a boarding care home or the spaces I've been at. And so we took that list. And in the next, from April of 1996 to August of 1997, I worked with my team to create a plan. And that plan included taking me to the local campus of junior college and meeting the disability services there, getting enrolled in college all before I left the hospital. It included working out a plan to find an apartment for me to live in on my little bit of disability that I made each month because I said that's what I needed. Now, there are people on that team who pushed back against me, but I had that support of those around me who actually said that I could and worked really hard. Sorry, to help me get there. That's what I see as person-centered planning. They didn't say the things I wanted to accomplish that I couldn't. And so on August 1st of 1997, I actually left that state hospital after being there almost a year, and I haven't been hospitalized since. And, it was one of the things that happened was that was very different from that time was not only did I have this place to go when I got out of there, which was a college class. Now that class was psychology because we felt that I knew psychology. Now I got an A in that class, I will say that. But the other piece was that they supported me in connecting to a therapist out in the community. I got to meet that person before I left. They supported me in connecting to my ACT team case manager before I left. So when I left out of those gates, which was terrifying for me at the time, I had these like strongholds to hold on to. And I think for myself, that was what was a huge difference and the difference maker in my own life. Because I got to say what it was that I wanted to do. Now, some things worked and some things didn't, and that was perfectly fine. And, you know, a lot of things as a peer specialist I like to talk about, we talk about is like, it's okay to fail. Fail is a bad word. We have failure as such a bad word, but we're learning each and every step along the way. And when we create person-centered planning plans, so to speak, that really focus on that individual and what their needs are, sometimes they're not going to meet those goals, and that's okay. And the importance lies in being able to navigate, to, you know, dip and dive and find out what else is there, what else do we need to do, or what else do they want to do. Because one of the things when I worked at I worked at the ACT team. I didn't work at the ACT team. When I was on the ACT team, I had a case manager who stood for me. But I also had a lot of other team members who, you know, all they were wanting to do was to keep me safe. To the point where I said I wanted to get a part-time job and go back to work at the state hospital that I was hospitalized at for the year. They said I was symptomatic. But I got that job, and that job led me to actually working at that state hospital. And I've been on disability for many, many years. But I say that because I had to I pushed back because they couldn't hear what it was that I needed. And what I needed them to do was to actually hear what I was saying, because I think that transition from the ACT team and all those services to going out on my own would have been a lot easier than it was. But the other thing I want to say is that what that started was a journey that's led me to here today, which has been in peer support, being able to use my lived experience to make a difference. And I think peer support and that peer support piece of the plan is so important. And for some of you may or may not know what peer support is, and especially in the mental health field, it's pretty prevalent these days. But it's basically individuals with their own lived experience supporting other individuals who have lived experience navigating whatever they're navigating. It's not a great, perfect definition of it, but it's walking along someone else to have them support them to get the life of their dreams. And I've had the honor of being able to work in that process, in the person-centered planning process, as a supporter of other individuals. And I think that being able to utilize my own lived experience with them and share those stories and those things that worked and those things that didn't work, but also to support people in giving permission to dream. Because so often we don't have that permission. And so often life has like pulled it out of us. And for me, person-centered planning, the heart of it is about individuals really connecting to their own strengths and being able to have others around them support those strengths and gifts to get the life that they choose and with the life that they want. And I think my time is up, so I'll stop there. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Amy.
And I did get that convertible. I've had a couple of them.
Fabulous.
There's a chat.
Okay, so you have your eye on chat. So you're seeing the love fest coming in for you. So sorry, checking chat. There's a big appreciation for Amy for your candor and your resilience and your amazing story. And Darian and Carol, you're getting shout outs too. So thanks, everybody. Okay, let's dig in a bit more in the time that we have remaining. I'd like to do another polling question and hear from you all. And what we'd like to talk about next is the who. Who needs to be involved to make the process go smoothly? And you've already heard from Amy. I mean, certainly Amy gives a pretty strong endorsement for the power of peer support. But we know that that person-centered planning is truly a collaborative process and something that really involves a community. So we'd like to hear from you, in addition to obviously the person who the plan belongs to. Who else needs to be involved to make the person-centered planning process go smoothly? Where are the touch points? And the choices that we came up with are family members, significant others, friends, case managers, support coordinators, an independent facilitator of person-centered planning. That's a service that's available in some states and some places and not others. Service providers, peer specialists, medical care providers, job coaches, educators, and certainly there are others. And so if you have other ideas, obviously just put them into chat. So we'll give folks another 10 seconds or so to respond to this. Again, this is a check all that apply. Who in your experiences needs to be involved to make the person-centered planning process go smoothly? All right, Connor, let's see. All right, family members, people who are significant in the person's life. Almost all of you endorsed family members, but also support coordinators, service providers. But I think the high numbers here for all of the polling results, and for those of you who aren't able to see the polling results, every single category, more than 50% of folks checked it. And in chat, I'm saying whoever the person wants is important. Right, it is the person's choice. I couldn't agree more. Okay, thanks, Connor. You can take the poll down. I'd like to hear from the panelists now about what in your experiences, who is important. And first, Amy, we'll go right back to you. Who has been most influential for you? And you've already spoken a bit to this, but please elaborate any more. And specifically, what were their skills? Since this is a webinar about staff competencies, what were those skills? So Amy, let's hear from you first.
Yeah, I think for me, and obviously I have a bias towards peer support, but one of the things that I've seen and one of the things I've learned from my own experience in supporting individuals, especially in the pre-planning process, is that peer supporters really are able to support individuals in kind of looking at, and we used at Bluebonnet Trails where I used to work, we used a tool called In the Driver's Seat, which I think is in the appendix of the document that you have. And in using that tool, we were able to take some time to really support the individual and just being able to start identify areas of their life that were working and areas of their life that weren't working as well as they wanted. So that when they were able to go into that meeting, they had a better idea of who they were in a sense and what it is that they really wanted to get out of their time at the organization, right? And so when I think about skills related to, especially for peer specialists, is the place of people that just listen. And I think that goes over all domains, is having persons that can hear and listen, persons that it's not always, there's a place and thing that I like to say is respectful curiosity. And that, staff that really come with that respectful curiosity, ask those questions, try to find out. Maybe a person may say one thing, but what it is that they're really looking to do is something else. But it takes a really honed and proficient facilitator to kind of get to those things. For me, I think the case manager is a really important piece of this, because the case manager really is a person who works typically alongside an individual the most, right? And is the person who helps support them to get those needs met and find some of those resources. And, a case in the case manager, even thinking about that role specifically, is a person who is a good resource broker, who really is able to find and connect things and connect people to places, but also is a good bridge between the individual and the team and the broader team, because sometimes there may be differences of opinion, let me just put that way. And in person-centered planning, I think having all those voices heard is really important. And I'll just stop there because I know everybody else has a lot more to say as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Amy. I jotted down resource broker. Those are both excellent concepts. All right, let's hear from Darian next. Darian, in your experience, who's most influential for you, and what skills did the person have?
So for me, in my person-centered planning, when I was doing it, I had my family, I had my friends, and my academic advisors, anyone that was wanting to see me succeed in life, people that want to celebrate your accomplishments, and anyone that, because I believe if you go into these person-centered planning, student or anyone that's doing a person-centered planning, I believe if you go into these things with people that want to see you succeed and want to see you thrive in your life, these are bound to work. And you also want to go in knowing who you are and where you belong. And it's okay if you don't go in there knowing that right away. Maybe when you get out there and start finding where you lie and where you belong and where you stand in the world, you will come into yourself. And I believe to who needs to be in your person-centered planning is everyone that I just said, is your family and your friends and your classmates, because your classmates are because your classmates can probably help you get in contact with people that want to work in the same field that you want to work in, making those connections. Going in, so your person-centered planner is not just helping you seek out opportunity, it's also a great opportunity for you to advocate for yourself and network. It's a great networking skill for people with disabilities to go out there and, you know, live their best lives. And I also believe that don't the people that you have in there, they should always have in the back of their head, like, every person with a disability is not the same. They are not the same. Just because I have a disability and I know someone that has a disability doesn't mean that doesn't mean we're on all the same brain length. No, we all learn differently. We all talk to different people. We're not all interested. But like I go back to saying, we are not the same. So have an understanding of knowing how to work with people with disabilities and making sure that that person is not so skeptical of saying, well, that is not possible, but it is possible if you have faith in that student. And that's all I have. And no, wait, that's not it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And to go in there already, because like I said, I have a disability, and the best way for me, anyway, this is my opinion going out to people on this panel, is embracing your disability is something that you can seriously just work towards doing. It doesn't happen overnight. Some people have a disability and they have a hard time coming in contact with it. You know, that's okay. We are people. Some people don't like to talk about their disability, and some people love to, you know, talk about their disability. Like I said, everyone is different, but I think it's a good idea to go in there saying like, I love my disability. I applaud my disability. I share my disability. I appreciate my hard work and dedication that I do, and you have to also go in there saying I'm enough, and I'm important, and you are powerful in what you say and what you do, and keep your head up in anything you do and anything you think you can do. 9 times out of 10, it's gonna come true. That's it.
Love it. Thank you, Darian. I love the idea of surrounding yourself with people who want to see you succeed. That's such a powerful idea. And you know, as a person who thinks from a systems perspective, how do we hire and train people who have that desire to see the person succeed? Let's all figure out how to do that. Okay, everybody. Okay, Janice, I'd like to hear from you next. And I know your internet has been less than awesome. So
yeah, I apologize. I had to turn my video off for a minute. Gosh, you all are tough acts to follow. I'm as inspired as the folks are in the chat box. This has been great. I don't know, when I think about, you know, aside from the person, I think about that question of influence. I think it kind of depends on how you define influence, right? Because like sometimes people link influence to power. right? Like, so who in the room has the most power over the group or the decision-making process? And that's an element of it, but I think I want to choose to define influence not really being about power so much, but more about impact. And just make the point that sometimes it's like the person in the room who technically has the least amount of power who has the biggest influence and the biggest impact. So I'm going to kind of, piggyback off of what Amy said. And then I saw Martha Barbone threw something into the chat earlier that I loved when I was presenting the competencies. And she said, really good peer supporters already do all of this. And I think we have a lot to learn from peer supporters across fields, because, I would really say that, based on shared lived experience, they're, oftentimes in the best position to make authentic connections, with people. And I think that makes them uniquely qualified and skilled around some of these competencies, especially things like visioning and goal setting, teaching, and supporting self-advocacy, helping folks to connect to people, places, and things, in the community. I could go on, but I think kind of my take home point is that in my experience in service systems around the country, it's systems that figure out how to use the passion and the skills of their peer specialists and supporters to contribute to this method of planning that really do it the best and get the most traction. So I really want to highlight that, because it's also unfortunately true that they're often underutilized. So that was just something that I wanted to highlight.
Thanks, Janice. I'm going to put in a plug, and in just a moment, I'll put a link to it. I'm going to put in a plug for, Janice mentioned Martha Barbone, who's on here today. Hi, Martha. She's a member of our Person-Centered Advisory Leadership Group and an awesome expert in peer support. And Martha developed a resource for us for one of our webinars last year on peer support that builds off of some of Janice's work, that basically takes point by point 10 ways that peer support can address and facilitate problems associated with person-centered planning. It's a really cool resource. So I'll recommend that to all of you as a start. Okay, Carol, please share with us your views on this topic. Who's most influential, and what skills does the person need to have?
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I will echo Janice. It's hard to come behind Darian and Amy's shared experience and speak to this. I also had jotted down a couple notes as you all were talking about who should be there. And I've seen in the chat, many people have already also expressed that it should be whomever the person wants to be part of their planning process and who they feel are champions for them. And those are folks who should be there and have a strong voice. In my experience working doing facilitated planning with people, particularly in service systems where there are power differentials and self-determination might not come as easily because of the structures that are in place, or the family members may have guardianship over the person, so their decision-making and their choice might be limited from a legal perspective. I think some of those people need to be present to hear the person express what their goals and dreams and desires are in an authentic environment with supportive colleagues and peers. Dignity of risk becomes a really big, I think, question when we're talking about person-centered plans and how to facilitate them, and recognizing, as Amy mentioned, it's okay if you fail. Everyone learns from making mistakes, and not everything goes perfectly. And our systems are set up to protect people from failure or protect people from getting hurt. But we can't always do that and expect to have great outcomes for people too. So I think that having people in the room who can assist with recognizing that there is dignity in taking risks in life, to make balanced, informed choices and help the person understand the consequences of some of the choices that he or she might want to make. And really kind of putting forward that the person has causal agency in their own life. So they have the ability to decide for themselves and have power over what happens within their own worlds is really important. So again, as Janice mentioned, I think that would vary from context to context, but I think the more we can have people really listen to what people want and really commit to making sure that they succeed or being champions for them, as Darian talked about, those are the people that need to be in that meeting space.
Awesome. Thank you, Carol. These are all good points, and I feel like we could do a separate webinar on each of these questions, but hopefully this is giving everyone a taste. Would like to move on to another topic, which is around self-advocacy. So we know that that person-centered planning is not something you do to a person or for a person. It's something that is done with the person, that's driven by the person. At least that's how it's supposed to go. We know at NCAPPS that one of the key ingredients in that that shared power dynamic is the person having the skills and being empowered to advocate for themselves, to speak up, to know what to expect, to speak out when things aren't going right, and when they need more choice and need more control. So that's the topic that we're going to turn to next. And we have a polling question for folks. We want to hear what you think. We want to know how we can make sure that people expect and ask for the skills that we've been talking about. So how do we make it so that that there's demand for these skills? How do we create demand for the skills that we've been talking about? And so that's our next polling question. How can we make sure people expect and ask for these skills from those who facilitate their person-centered planning and others who are important to the person? So we came up with a few ideas, and again, if the idea isn't here, please enter it into chat. So the ideas we came up with were printed and online infographics, resources like infographics and brochures, kind of know your rights sorts of things. And with that, I would put the plain language version of this document, which is going to be coming out very soon. Self-advocacy skills training, webinars and trainings, making sure that support coordinators are teaching self-advocacy and promoting self-advocacy, education with providers, education with peer supporters. Oh, and there's the plain language handout of the 5-step competencies document. We're excited about that one. So those were some of our ideas. So pick any of these that you think sound good from your experience, and also please add some into chat. And so Connor, let's give folks another 10, 15 seconds to look over that and weigh in. And I'll just start reading out stuff I hear in chat. Mandates can be helpful for sure. Thank you, Liza. Tammy. Large scale public awareness campaigns, getting it out of the hands of care providers, starting with people who are young, with children and families, totally, yes. Provider accountability, including it in transition centers. SIL, Center for Independent Living, certainly have a role to play here. Leadership, management has to buy in, love it. Okay, and thank you, keep those coming in. And here I see that the most endorsed resources, self-advocacy skills training. 71% of you said that was good. And then 67% of you said that support coordinators really need to be teaching self-advocacy. Awesome, thank you. Thank you for that. And now we will hear from our experts here on the panel. And Carol, we're going to you first. In your experience, what's the best way to make sure people expect and demand these skills?
Yeah, thank you. So coming from an organizational management perspective, I think one of the things that we can really do, particularly with these competency domains being identified, since they are based on observable skills and attitudes and knowledge, is enhanced training, which was one of the top polling questions. I think that we can do this in a number of ways, including making sure that these competencies are represented in training curricula for facilitators, independent facilitators, and people who are involved in person-centered planning processes across sectors. It sounds like we have a lot that we could learn in the intellectual and developmental disability sector from peer specialists. I think that we really have some room to grow there. We can also work it into job descriptions. So if we are hiring into organizations or someone will be facilitating as an independent facilitator, a plan for a person to put forward what it is that we expect them to have and be able to do within that process. And we can also work it into job performance evaluations, so that if someone is lacking in a particular area, we can identify the point at which someone might need some additional professional development and do some targeted training for that person to help bring that competency area up a bit higher. And I think because we are talking about person-centeredness, really making sure that we're capturing the voice of the people who are on the receiving end of the planning process. So who will be having plans written with them, who will have plans implemented with them, and making sure that they are also providing voice to us around what we need to have reflected from their perspective in a person who's going to be part of this process in their life.
Thank you, Carol. All right, let's hear from Amy next. Amy, what do you think about building demand for these skills?
Yeah, thanks. I think there's a lot of things that we can do and a lot of things that need to be done. And when I was thinking about this and kind of reflecting, one of the things I think gets in the way is I think providers are still afraid of people actually finding their voice fully. I hate to say it that way, but what I find is that there is a fear because there's a belief that it causes more work. It causes all these other things. In reality, when people actually start finding their voice and using that voice, I mean, that's what you want to have happen. But providing training for providers around like the really importance of it, even though there's a belief, I think that all people should understand that self-advocacy is important. I think there's just fears that are there. I've done a number of training with providers that we looked at, like, what are those fears? And they're real. So being able to kind of get to some of those things that get in the way of people fully being able to express themselves and use their voice is important, because it's not always pretty when people first start finding their voice. It doesn't always look in a pretty little package. It can look a lot of different ways, and that's beautiful, right? So like training around that. And then there's training with individuals about like how to find their voice, use it in a way that can be heard. And that's why I find that peers really come into play. A lot of times that we've done, or I've done, groups around self-advocacy, where we've talked about what does it look like, what gets in your way, those fears about not being heard, using their voice and people not listening, and like looking at all those different angles is important. I love the fact that y'all are coming out with the plain language version of this document, because that's the first thing when we had that first conversation. I said, like, this could be incredible, because so often people just don't know what they can expect from services, just don't know that things are actually available unless people tell them. And I think that's one of the places where peer support is so great, because we're able to say, hey, go talk to this person, talk to this, oh, have you looked here? And coming from that place of having been there and done that, a lot of times provides credit in credentialing there. I think the last thing, and there's so many things I could say on this, is that we need to do it a lot and often. A lot and often, that's the same thing, but you know what I'm saying, I hope. So often people are given information when they first come into services, and that's for many can be a really overwhelming time. A lot of paperwork, a lot of talking. I still can't fully hear you. But being able to provide information along the way for individuals, I think, is integral. Because you never know when someone's going to hear something, and that's going to be the thing that is that light bulb for them to find their own voice. So those are some things.
Thanks, Amy. You got a lot of amens. Darian, tell us what you think. How do we build up those self-advocacy skills?
Okay, so how can we build up those self-advocacy skills? So for me, I would like to just piggyback off what Amy said about teaching our young people how to share their voices, inspire people, learn how to ask for things. But other than that, I think from there, I think from an early age, I think that we need to bring it into our schools, making sure that the teachers and the principals and anyone in that school system knows how to teach those students how to speak up for themselves, and just teaching them that your voice matters. And if you don't agree with something, speak up about it. If you don't like something, speak up about it. Teach them that just because you speak up doesn't mean that what you saying is not relevant, which it is relevant, because in everyday life, we speak up for what we want. It's like asking me like what I want for dinner and I say pizza. That's advocating. That person asks me like, what do I want? And what do I want? I say pizza. So and making sure we ask these people, what do they want out of life? Who do you want to, what do you want to do? What is something that gets you up out of the bed in the morning? Teaching them you can do anything that you want to do if you put your mind to it. And I think we seriously need to start with in the school system, teaching our students, using your voices matter. And I don't want to bring this into politics, but just to go out there and vote. Teach them how to go out there and vote, because that's one thing that can teach a teenager, a child, to use their voice. Because when you vote, you're using your voice. Just because you're going there to touch a screen, you're touching a screen to tell them what you want in America. You want to change something, and teaching them that when you're speaking up, you're changing the world. You can change. I always like to say, changing the world with one speech at a time. I live by that. So teaching them that you can speak up and you can ask for accommodations when you need them, and teaching them how to go about asking for accommodations if they need them, and just asking, just teach them how to advocate and stick up for themselves. And that's all I have to say for that.
Thank you, Darian. From the peer advocate and the peer support, these are true words of wisdom, and for our experts as well, our other experts as well. All right, Janice, you are bringing up the rear. Tell us about what's your take on building demand for self-advocacy.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit of a different angle to add to what's already been said, that, I don't think you can create demand until people have a vision of what they can and should expect, meaning that whether you're talking about a webinar or a face-to-face dialogue or an infographic, anything that gets put out there has to really be concrete, to raise expectations, in my experience. Like, do people really understand and have a vision that this is different? It's different in relationships, it's different in process, it's different in the plan. It should be different in the kinds of outcomes that you can expect for yourself, right? I mean, I don't think people always see it as being different. I mean, I remember years ago, our first really big research project, we were trying to talk to people with lived experience and asking them, are you actively involved? How satisfied are you with this? And the vast majority of people at the time said to us, it's great. We're really actively involved. It's all good. And I got to be honest, I was a practitioner doing person-centered planning, supposedly, in the system at that time. And I knew darn well it was not person-centered planning the way that my mentors had taught me. So we were really surprised when people said that. And then we went back to them and we said, well, we asked you about person-centered service planning. You said you were actively involved as a partner. So what does actively involved mean to you? And so many people said to us, it's like that piece of paper and I have to sign it every few months, and I think you send it somewhere and that's how you get paid to provide me support. Yeah, I sign it. It's all good. And that's a tragic reflection of how low people's expectations are. That for anybody to ever think that being asked to sign a plan without having any meaningful input, and that plan impacts their experience in supports and also their life, and to think that that's okay is just unacceptable. And so like things like the plain language document, like nuts and bolts. What does it look different? In what ways? What should you be looking for? I really think that's critical. The competencies domains get us a little further, but we still have a ways to go, I think.
Awesome. Thank you, Janice and Darian and Amy and Carol for all of this information. I've learned so much, and I think the over 1,000 people on this webinar have also learned so much. We're quickly running out of time, and there are exactly 1 bajillion questions in chat for all of you. What I'd like to propose is that in addition to posting the recording of this webinar, the slides, all of the resources that we've mentioned on our website, ncapps.acl.gov, in a few weeks, we'll also grab the questions that we've seen in chat and work with the panelists here to prepare some written responses to those questions. And we'll create a resource document, hopefully responding to as many of these questions as we can, so that we can do that in writing and really give your very good questions the time and attention that they deserve. So I'd like to propose that we do that moving forward. And so Alex, I'll turn it over to you to wrap up.
Thank you, Bevan, and you're absolutely right. I think there's a bajillion +1 questions. There's been rich conversation. I have been copying them, documenting them, and while we promised that there would be Q&A time, I think we really wanted to make sure people had the opportunity to discuss. There's 1 question I think I can put to you, Janice, and then I think we will take the rest of them and into the written document. One of the questions was when you were talking about making sure the plan is implemented according to the according to the person's wishes. The question was, what does this mean that the facilitator is expected to follow the person along through their service journey and not just be there for planning events?
I would say yes. And I recognize that this looks different in different systems, right? Sometimes you have a person whose expectation is that they're facilitating a person-centered plan, but yet there's maybe 6 other plans that are impacting the person's life that are created by service providers. My feeling is for us to really achieve the power of this person-centered planning model as a system of care, that the facilitators should have more power and authority over monitoring the implementation and, making sure that, for example, a person's goal in life that's important to them, what's important to them doesn't change whether they're sitting with their PCP facilitator or whether they're going over to a mental health center and talking to a doctor. Like, what is important to them doesn't change. So I would personally like to advocate for the fact that I do think that facilitators should have more authority in that area.
Thank you, Janice. And again, apologies to everyone that we're not going to be able to answer all questions, but what we're going to do now is we're going to move to a couple real-time evaluation questions, which we will pull up, and we will leave these questions up for everyone to respond to as we say our thank yous and goodbyes. Please take a moment to respond to these questions, and you'll note that there's a little gray bar to the very side of the poll, which you can scroll down. So there's a total actually of 6 questions that we're asking you to respond to. Much appreciation for all of our presenters and panelists today. This was an incredibly rich conversation. As Bevan said at the very beginning, we think this is a record for attendance of an NCAPPS webinar, and we're incredibly excited. There were a number of resources that people both referenced and talked about, and we will be sure to include those resources in the resource document. Just one quick one that kept coming up was the notion how important it is to start talking about this earlier. And there's a webinar focused on person-centered planning, person-centered IEP, which I wanted to direct people to, and we will. With that, thank you very much, everyone. Best wishes for the rest of today, for the rest of this month, and for 2021.
Is it just, we're staying on this link to debrief? Yes, I'm assuming.
Hey, Janice, it's Alex. Actually, we have a separate debrief link that should be in your calendar. We're
Okay,
just leaving
sorry
this
about that. I
open.
wasn't quite sure.
No
I needed the
worries.
reminder, so I'm gonna pop off and find that.
No worries. We're just leaving the poll open, but people can be free
Okay.
to leave.
I'll exit. See you all soon.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Do I need to stay for the debriefing?
You don't, if you don't want to, Darian, you're welcome to join. It should be in your calendar. You don't need to though.
Okay.
Well, and we'll definitely be in touch. Thank you very much
Oh, you're
for all
welcome.
of your
Do
participation.
you need my information for the stipend? Or you're gonna?
Yep. We'll follow up with you by email for sure, Darian.
Okay, just asking.
Sure thing.
All right. Have a nice day.
You too.